is a total spoofer. What does she mean a spoofer? This is bullshit.
Wolves coming back from an offside position, but Shane Long was definitely onside. Shane Long has done it!
I'm going to enjoy it tonight.
And you should as well.
Thanks very much.
Well done.
But
unless he's breastfeeding, he should be alright.
As club football comes to a temporary standstill, we stare down the barrel of another challenging international break with away trips to Greece and Finland on the cards. But before all that, we do have some club action to attend to at home and abroad. Hello, and you're very welcome to the Ireland Radar podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Murray, and I'm joined by James French and Dylan Hudson. This week, we'll be looking at the SSE Airtricity Premier Division title race, running through the key Irish club involvement over the weekend, and looking ahead to what you could say is Heimer Hallgrimsson's first proper international window. But, first and foremost, gentlemen, how are we?
Good, Joe, thanks. It's another midnight recording for our sins, so a bit tired again, but if there's anything to keep me going, it's I think the League of Ireland right now, it's a bit mad, you know. I think that was a big game today, and it's maybe a bit disappointing for someone more neutral like myself to see Shamrock Rovers back in the mix, but Jesus, just keeps going on.
Galway United still in there as well.
Just about, I think.
They made the RT graphic anyway. I seen past this out.
That's the win. That's the win in their books.
Yeah, absolute certainty. I think it's one that I still can't call, and as we record this on Sunday night, Shamrock Rovers have won 2-0 at Tulka Park away to Shelbourne, and it's blown the title race wide open. If anything, it's probably advantage Derry at the moment, as they have 2 games in hand and find themselves 4 points behind top. But before we go anywhere with that, we must also mention that Athlone Town women won their first ever Women's Premier Division title on Saturday with the victory over Bohemians. It's been one of the most exciting Women's Premier Division seasons in recent memory, and Athlone have been great value for it. So massive congratulations to Kieran Kilduff and his team. If we look over to the men's Premier Division, Shamrock Rovers obviously had their 2-0 victory against Shelbourne, and it's blown the title race wide open, really. That was on Sunday afternoon in Tulka Park, as I said. Jack Byrne and Neil Ferrugia with the goals either side of half-time. And we'll just touch on that quickly, lads. It was a mental game in itself, but I think what's the real talking point that's come from this, and it's kind of from the wider season, is just it seems like no one actually wants to win the Premier Division this season.
Yeah, it's genuinely crazy. I seen something on Twitter earlier that I think Shelbourne are still 4 points off what Bohemians would have finished on last season. Like Shelbourne top of the league, which is crazy for a team that's been top of the league for however many months. And obviously I think they haven't won in 9 games or something now, which is crazy. But it's, as Damien Zuff said after the game, like it's still in their hands, which is mad really. Like neither Derry or Shamrock Rovers seem to want to really take the initiative. I think Rovers obviously over the last couple of games really put a bit of form together. Obviously with Europe as well, like I think today could be a big turning point, to be honest. Like coming off a really tough game midweek and then putting in a performance like that is big, like, and it's just, he still couldn't really call it. Damien Duff said it's still in Shelbourne's hand, but like you couldn't really back them with the form they're in. Like you just can't trust them to win a game. Yeah,
I think Derry might be the odds-on favourites at the moment, if I'm right, but I could be wrong on that. But there's something quite funny and disappointing at the same time that we have this massive title race that Shamrock Rovers weren't a part of all season, and now we get closer to it and they could end up winning it. Look, it's so tight, everyone's so close. The fact that the top 2 teams just keep dropping points, like you said about the SHELS, I think it's 1-9 or 1-10. It's absolutely ridiculous form. You know, we were saying that Galway United are slightly in the mix now. I don't know if that's the case after their drop points against Dundalk, and it looks like Sligo Rovers are out of it now, but like it's kind of mad everywhere across the table. Even we don't know what's happening with this top 4 race. Like obviously the cup final is going to make a massive impression on that as well, but God, it's absolutely crazy. And I think the great thing about things like this is after we have what is going to be a crazy end to the season, I think we're going to enter the next season with so many questions, and it could make for an entertaining start to next season too, which is of course what we all want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that's also on the tip of everyone's tongue at the moment is that European race, and it's still all to play for. You look down and you could probably go as far as 6th, if not 7th, where Waterford are sitting, and say that any of those could maybe sneak in at the last second. Like, looking here, Waterford are on 43 points in 7th, but then above them in 6th is Sligo Rovers on 47, and they're only 3 points off Derry City in 3rd, so it is absolutely wide open. Derry City do have that 2-game advantage in hand there against Bohemians and Sligo Rovers, which aren't easy games by any means, but given, you know, where they are in the table, you would probably expect them to win those. So then in terms of their league title push, they'd probably be the odds-on favourite, like you say, Dylan. But then obviously Derry City are into the Sports Direct FAI Cup final, and that's where the European race gets really interesting, because if they do win that, then fourth place opens up for a European spot. But if Drogheda, who are also in the final with them, win it, then that means they get the European place. So I think everyone's probably, or who's in the European race, is cheering on Derry City at the moment. So I just want to get your thoughts on that, and we'll start with Dylan. How do you see this European race panning out in the last few weeks of the season?
I honestly haven't a notion. Just with the way this season has gone, anything could happen. I've no idea. Like, at this stage, I'm kind of half expecting Longford to pop up somewhere and get a place, because it's just crazy. You can't tell what's going to happen. What I'm really hoping for is, we could look at a position that there could be a massive Connacht derby between Galway United and Sligo Rovers, and if they both keep up good form, they've one match in between that going into that game. I think it's on the 25th, if I'm right. I'm hoping that could be a game that, we maybe have a bit more clarity, and if we go in knowing which team wins, that could just make for a crazy, crazy atmosphere. And also, you want to see the teams that don't normally get in the positions to get it. But look, I don't know. I feel like Shamrock Rovers probably have their hand on third place at the moment, and I think it's probably going to come down if Derry win the cup. Yeah,
just looking at like Galway, obviously in 4-3 ahead of Pats, who are like absolutely flying. But I think Galway play Pats next. Like, that's going to be an absolutely huge game. Galway have to go to Bows as well on the final day, which is going to be really tough.
Themselves against Bows, so I imagine.
To be fair though, like Bows, it's weird because the way Pats and Bows have gone through like mini rebuilds halfway through a season, which is just crazy. Like, because of the summer league, obviously Kenny came in at Pats and brought in El Bazzetti, a couple others. Like, he brought in serious quality, and then Bows obviously getting Ross Tierney and Dawson Devoy back, who are two huge players for them, like, to be coming back. Like, so I think both of those sides have seen a huge resurgence due to their recruitment, and a bit of a manager bounce on kind of count with Pats, not really with Bows. So kind of in the European race, you would fancy Pats probably. I know Dylan won't be happy with me saying this, that I don't think Galway can sneak it, but just with the form Pats are in, they took two huge wins away to Rovers and SHELS, probably the two toughest places to go in the league, like. And Galway at home, you'd fancy them. Derry obviously at home to come as well, so they have a tough run in as well, but you just would have to fancy Pats with the kind of form they're in. And then kind of looking further up the table, it's kind of almost impossible to call. Like, Derry City, almost every time they get a big chance to kind of really have the title in their grasp, they seem to just bottle it. Like, their away from this season is absolutely horrendous. Like, so you just can't really trust them. Like, at the minute, probably be leaning towards Shamrock Rovers, to be honest. With how Shelburne are going, and they just can't seem to kind of get a win at all. So listen, it's a lot of people kind of talked about the standard of the league this season, but I think what the league really has missed the last couple of seasons is a title race and genuine excitement, and we really have that this season going into the last couple of games of the year with the title race and obviously with the European race, which hopefully Galway miss out on first, just for Dylan.
The funny thing is, you mentioned about Galway, is that, like, if you ask many of the ones making the decisions at the club, like, they will tell you that they're not in a European race, and I don't know if they're just trying to play it down.
John Caulfield's probably still going with we're still trying to avoid relegation there, even though they're so
pretty much, pretty much, even though they mathematically can't be relegated anymore. But I was lucky enough to be behind the scenes for the Dundalk game, and in the media room afterwards with Ollie Horgan, and he almost leapt at the reporter who asked him about Europe, and saying that was never the target, and this, that and the other. So I think they're maybe just hanging on to their hopes, or trying to play it low key and not put any pressure on themselves. But I think, as you say, like, I think if you had to pick a top three, it's probably going to be Rovers. But if it's four, like, I think at this stage I'd probably fancy Pats, because they look like an absolutely unstoppable force at the moment.
Would you fancy Rovers for the title?
I can't tell at all. Like, honestly,
I'd even put them third. Like, I'd honestly fancy them for the title. Like, currently with how SHELS are going, and you just can't trust Derry.
I think SHELS you feel like they just need to win one game, and it's a lot easier said than done, because of they haven't been able to do that for a long time.
Their last couple of games, the performances have been so much better than what they were. Like against Pats, I know they were awful for kind of that first period of second half, but like the last half an hour, they were really good. Pats obviously scored a late winner, and then against Rovers, like Damien Duff was even saying, it's probably their best performance that they've had away in Tala. and they've came away with a 2-0 loss. So yeah, it'll just be about whether SHELS can shake it off, and once they win one, I'd back them to win the league, but it's just about getting that one, and I don't think you can really trust them to do that at the minute.
Yeah, 100%. And I think if you look at any team's remaining fixtures, they're mouth-watering. And I'm just looking here at Shelburne. Their last 3 games are Waterford at home, Drogheda at home, and Derry City away. You would say the first 2, at any other stage of the season, you'd back them wholeheartedly to get those victories. And then Derry City then on the final day would probably be the thing that would decide the title. But I think given the form that Shelburne have found themselves in recently, you really can't bet against Waterford or Drogheda. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that one develops. And we're going to touch on that a lot more in the next few weeks as it really does ramp up. But we'll move straight over to across the water and look at the Premier League involvement. And lads, I'm going to start with Nathan Collins. He was on the score sheet for Brentford against Wolves. Overall, it was a positive performance from him. He probably won't be too happy because it was a 5-3 victory, so he was on the receiving end of 3 goals. But he obviously captained Ireland last time out. It's safe to say he's a shoo-in for the starting 11, I would say, at this stage, regardless of whether it's a back 3 or a back 4. The question I have now is, who do you think is going to be partnering him at the back?
Yeah, I probably don't think there's much of a conversation, really. I think it's got to be Darragh O'Shea. Obviously, I think started almost all of Ipswich games so far since he's got his move there. And someone who has not one of our most experienced players, but kind of in the squad that was picked, obviously with no Duffy, no Coleman. He actually is one of our more experienced players, even though he's only maybe 25. I think it kind of has to be Darragh O'Shea. Bowden playing Premier League football. On paper, it's a pretty good partnership. They should accommodate each other pretty well. Both quite quick as well. Both are adept at playing out from the back of their clubs. So you'd hope they can bring that into the international stage as well. But yeah, listen, for me, it's got to be Darragh O'Shea.
Never thought I'd see the day that James French doesn't take the opportunity to back Liam Scales. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's like a lot of positions we have, and I think Heimer had mentioned it when just in terms of the quality of the squad. I think a lot of the players there are similar kind of standard. I quite like the partnership of Collins and Omobamidele. I thought Omobamidele was one of our better players against Greece, but the problem with him obviously is just he's not getting game time for Nottingham Forest, which is something we said was going to happen at the start of the season. But if you go just from player profiles and player quality, personally, I think that is our best back to it's Omobamidele and Collins. But again, I've no problem if it's O'Shea. Again, he's playing a lot of games, and also someone I'm a big fan of. I think they do well. They're good leaders, and as I was mentioned, I think Liam Scales as well has really taken up a level this season. So I think at one stage of the season, I've seen a stat that he was one of the best performing players outside the top 5 leagues in defence this season. I don't have the stat in hand with me, but look, James will be able to tell you more about his season than I can. But he's gone from where there was a section of Celtic fans who were given absolutely pelters at any opportunity last season to where he's probably become one of their more respected players from performances this season.
The narrative is still there that he's our weak link, but I know you all would have seen the Dortmund result during the week. Genuinely, he was probably our best defender on the night and one of our best performers. How he's came on over the last year or two is remarkable. He looks really comfortable now playing at that top level. We know what Liam Scales probably his weaknesses are, his pace and his strength, but on the ball, defensive solidity, Liam Scales is a brilliant player, and I think he probably will see game time at some point in one of the games, just with both games obviously in quite close proximity. It's Helsinki on Thursday and in Greece on Sunday, so you'd imagine he'll probably start one of those games. And yeah, just as Dylan was saying, I didn't mention Liam, but I kind of have to now, to be honest, as I'm a Celtic fan, and he definitely will get some game time over the coming games.
I think it's interesting there what you mentioned about Andrew Omobamidele, Dylan. Obviously, he's not playing any football really at all for Nottingham Forest this season. Wasn't even in the matchday squad at the weekend. Now, it's a similar situation to Jake O'Brien, really, in the sense that it's probably not a move that's worked out for him, but the difference is Omobamidele's still getting those call-ups. How long can this situation continue where he's not playing club football but still getting recognition at international level? And what is the breaking point for Heimer, do you think?
Well, I think what Omobamidele has is that he's been involved in the squads in the past, and he was previously getting game time, and he's made his way into the squad. Where Jake O'Brien has come in and he's only been in a couple of squads before this and has gone from not having game time. I think also maybe that there could be a thought to play him at fullback given his pace as well, which works in his favour. But look, I think I tweeted something about the Amabamidele situation towards the window, and I feared for his position at centre half. To be honest, I fear for a lot of Nottingham Forest players when they come in, because the place is just absolutely mad with transfers. Like, it's hard to have a long-term career there, I feel. But it's crazy, because when I see Amabamidele, I see someone who's got the tools to be just a very good centre half. Like, or as much as he's not getting game time at Forest, I think if things go right for him, he could end himself at a better club, because every time I watch him, I think he's one of the better defenders for Ireland. He's got this rapid pace. He's decent in the tackle now. I think his concentration can let him down, but I for one think it's absolutely crazy that he's not at a club that's playing him week in, week out, and that, in my opinion, should be in the Premier League. He's more than good enough for it. Or does he go out to another division, but, keep the same standard? I think he's got to have to be knocking on the door for a move in January, and I probably would expect him to do so as well.
I think he's the perfect example of like a good Premier League player struggling to get into a side with like really good options in his position. Like, it's just kind of the way the Premier League has gone with Irish footballers trying to kind of break in and be a first team starter. But like, I think Forest obviously have Murillo ahead of him, and they brought in Milenkovic, who was very solid. Like, so it is worrying to see him not playing, and I think he really needs a loan move, whether that's to the Championship or abroad. But it's hard to see him kind of where his long-term future lies at Forest, just with how little he's played, since he's obviously got that move.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting one, and one that I was really kind of interested to discuss when I did initially see the squad, and I'm glad I got your 2 cents on it. But if we look further back, the goalkeeper situation is also one that could be a problem. Caoimhín Kelleher missed Liverpool's 1-0 victory through illness, as Alisson came off injured and Vitek Jaros came on in his place. So you'd imagine if Kelleher was fit for the matchday squad, it would have been him, to come on in Alisson's place. You'd hope Kelleher would be fit for the national fixtures, but still, for him, you've got to feel for him. He's obviously going to be disappointed that he did miss out on what would have been one of his few chances for club minutes. And there is also that niggling fear that if someone else is stepping in his place because he's not there, that opportunity could be gone. Now, if we look purely at the national picture, if Kelleher does miss out, and we wouldn't expect him to just because it's only an illness, who steps in his place? Is it going to be Mark Travers, who's not really playing football for Bournemouth? Or would you go for someone like Max O'Leary, say, who's also in the squad, who is playing football week in, week out?
I have a feeling that they'd probably go with Travers, just because he's got that experience of playing a few national team games before. But to be completely honest, I think the pair of them are similar level, or showing a similar level. I do think we're talking about players that should have got a move. I think Travers should have got a move a long time ago. There was only a couple of seasons ago where his stock was high enough as a young and up and coming goalkeeper, and to be kind of in a similar position that Kelleher has found himself in the last few years is kind of mad. On the Kelleher situation, to play devil's advocate a bit, I think Jaros coming in and making appearances for Liverpool, if he can show that he is a good keeper, it might open the door for Kelleher to be able to get a move. Like, I think Kelleher couldn't get the move, or was priced out of a move this summer, because they still want him to be back up before their new goalkeeper Mamardashvili is integrated into the squad. And look, if Jaros proves that he's good enough as backup, they might allow Kelleher to leave. Also, in the last couple of weeks, he's been making a bit of noise about not getting his move. And he did that interview, I think, when an Ireland duty last time, saying that he did want to move and he was pushing for it and he didn't get it. So maybe watch that space in the January window. But I think, as I wrote a few weeks back, I struggle to see what teams will pay the money that Liverpool want, because quite frankly, they're looking for an outrageous fee for a goalkeeper who's played such little first team games at the age of 25. But look, slightly getting off topic there, but if Kelleher is not going to make it, to be honest, I think he will, because he'd want to be fairly sick if he's not able for Thursday. But I think they might go 1-on-1 then and see who's the better one. But to be honest, he could pick any of them and I'd be happy enough. I
think most Irish fans will, you hear the name Mark Travers, will probably remember the calamity against Serbia. I think, was it under Kenny, maybe his first campaign, was it the World Cup qualifying campaign? I think he obviously had a pretty poor game in Belgrade. But I think you're spot on, Dylan. Like, Travers, he's kind of had a lot of stock a couple of years ago, coming up as a young keeper in the Premier League. I genuinely thought he was actually at Blackburn. Like, I remember seeing, I think it was on deadline day, that he was getting a loan move there. It obviously fell through, and he's not playing games at the minute, which isn't ideal. Like, to be honest, I'd probably go with O'Leary, just considering they're probably relatively similar quality levels. They're both playing. Travers obviously with Bournemouth, but O'Leary starting the Championship. Like, I think you have to kind of go with who's playing, to be honest, regardless of kind of previous experience international level. But like I do get the kind of opinion that Travers should play, considering he has played international games before. But to be honest, I don't think there's a great deal of quality between them. So it's kind of either or, to be honest.
It's really hard to call. You'd imagine that Kelleher will be fit, so hopefully it's not a problem that you do face. But at the same time, it is good to have two relatively quality backup options. Personally, I'd probably go for O'Leary just because he's playing football week in, week out. But if we just look ahead to Finland now on a broader picture, what are your expectations? I know Heimer has said that he expects them to be pragmatic, but lads, what do you see from the game? How do you expect it's going to pan out?
I'd probably just going off the kind of squad, obviously kind of some notable absentees. It looks like Heimer's actually made a stamp on the squad, which is what a lot of Irish fans are crying out for. Like, I didn't really get the whole kind of letting O'Shea pick most of the squad, letting them do the press conferences. Like, I think when you're coming into any job, club or international, I think it's always best to kind of get into it straight away and start fresh. Like, I don't think trying to bed in for a couple of camps is the way to go. And I think hopefully kind of Heimer's kind of got that out of the system, and this is his squad. So I think what a lot of Irish fans are hoping for, kind of expectations probably on the floor, to be honest. But I think a lot of Irish fans are hoping for just a performance that resembles something different than what we've seen over the last year with John O'Shea in the friendlies, and obviously with the two games last month. I think people want to see a side that go out and looks like that they've had Heimer's print on them, if you know what I mean. And whether that's playing a 4-4-2 or a 3 at the back, I don't think people really care. They just want to see a performance that resembles the manager, not something similar that we've seen under John O'Shea over the last year. Kind of insane formation. I would like to see a change from the 3 at the back. We've played it for a number of years now, and I think people are kind of sick of seeing it. And the point me and Dylan have kind of touched on previously, you don't have the quality wing backs. Like, you just can't play a 3 at the back at this level. Like, if you look at the likes of Denmark, who would have played a 3 at the back for a long time, they had real quality kind of wing backs to go up and down that system. We just don't have it anymore. We did with Coleman and Doherty in their prime, but we don't anymore. And I think a 4 at the back would just kind of suit us better. I think the left back option obviously is something we'll come on to that is a worry if we do play 4 back. Maybe Liam Scales slots in there, but yeah, I think overall Irish fans just want to see a performance in a team that resembles something different from what we've seen under John O'Shea over the last year.
Yeah, this one is the interesting one. You know, saying that it's going to, or Heimer expects them to be pragmatic. Like, look, this is what we struggled with under Kenny. It was when teams were playing pragmatically, and I don't think Greece played pragmatically at all against us. I think England definitely didn't and shouldn't have. But you know, if Finland are going to play pragmatic, let's see what Heimer has for that, because you know Kenny really did struggle with teams who sat back and let us have the ball. I'm kind of more intrigued than know what's going to happen here. Look, it might be a good idea to try a more attacking system with this game, and seeing what some of those wingers can do. As James said, like, I don't think the problem was ever the formation. A lot of the players we had suited the formation. The problem was that we didn't have the wing backs to get up and down. As I said, like Seamus Coleman and Robbie Brady, like fantastic servants to the country, and Seamus Coleman is still a fine fullback, you know, still doing it at a top level in the Premier League. But by God, I never want to see him at wing back, as probably as much as James is as sick of me mentioning it to, or complaining at the Ireland games of trying to watch him sprint back when his winger is miles gone past him. But look, again, like, those players just aren't able to have the legs, and that means you're just sterile going forward. So to counter it, I'd love to see maybe wingers instead of wing backs and more going forward. To say that's what I do, I have no idea. I really have no idea. I don't know what to expect from Finland either. It would be lovely to maybe win, but that's maybe asking for a bit much considering our last couple of years of football.
I think Finland are a good side. I think I'd say a lot of Irish fans will be aware of this, but like, they are a good international side. Like, they're not coming into this playing against minnows. Like, I think if we were maybe playing against Azerbaijan away or something along those lines, and you kind of talked about Kenny struggling with teams that sit back, I don't think Finland will sit back. Like, they play a 4-2-3-1. They're playing at home. They're going to be looking at us kind of like wounded animals after the 2 defeats last month. And they're probably going to come out and play. Like, they do have some decent players. And obviously, Teemu Pukki we all know of. Glenn Kamara, obviously at Rennes now, previously of Rangers and Leeds. And they do have a tricky winger, Keskinen, I think his name is, playing for Aberdeen at the minute. He's flying with them, who obviously they won again today, sitting joint top of the league in Scotland. So, like, they do have some good players. In reality, the quality gap between ourselves and them probably isn't that much. Maybe on paper we have more players playing the Premier League, but like Finland, like their manager been there for 8 years. Like, they're going to be a really well-drilled side. at home in Helsinki. I don't know what the bookies are, but like you probably hedged them, to be honest, considering our recent form, and they obviously are. Like, they know what they're going to be doing with their manager. He's been there for a very long time. So listen, it's kind of one where it's these games away from home against teams of similar strengths are always one we kind of struggle in, and we don't know what to expect. But all I think Irish fans just want to see is a performance of something different than we've seen over the last year. I think that'll be the starting point with this Heimer reign.
And moving swiftly on to Under the Radar, the bit where we highlight the things that you may have missed. And this week we're looking at the under-19s and the under-21s. Tom Mohan, the under-19s manager, has released his squad today, Sunday, for games against Greece, Croatia and Mexico in Croatia. And we also have the under-21s who are playing next week against Norway and Italy as well. James, I know you know a lot more about this than I do, so I'll let you give us the lowdown on that.
Yeah, so listen, obviously the under-19s playing Greece, Croatia and Mexico in Croatia coming up. Kind of some really, really good talents in there. I'll start off with Freddie Turley, obviously would have been a member of the Ireland under-17 squad that done really well at the Euros a couple of years ago, that famously lost out to Lamine Yamal, Spain. He was obviously excellent that night. But yeah, listen, Freddie Turley recently got a move to Derby from Shamrock Rovers. Actually made a Derby matchday squad not too long ago. So a really, really good talent. Obviously Romeo Chukwu as well and Naj Razi both would have been members of that 17 squad. Chukwu now at Southampton, Naj Razi now at Como. Both really good technical midfielders. I think like the midfield in this 19 squad is really, really strong. Kind of as well as that Carl O'Sullivan from Cork. I think he's 17 or 18, he's still quite young. He's had a brilliant season at Cork in the first division, so another really good technical player. And then kind of the main attackers I'd probably watch out for, Ochoa Maloney, brilliant name by the way, but he's kind of been made a lot of Malaga matchday squads over the last year. I think he's came on a couple of times as well. Malaga operating in the second tier of Spain. And then Trent Cohn-Doherty obviously at Liverpool. A lot of Irish fans will be aware of him just because he's obviously at Liverpool and missed out on the Ireland under-17s at the Euros a couple of years back due to injury. That would be kind of his age group. But yeah, he's a huge talent. Has played in most of the UEFA Youth League games for Liverpool this season. So yeah, listen, it's a 19 squad full of talent and full of technical talent, midfield talent, which is what we're kind of missing in the seniors, which is kind of interesting to see. And then moving on to the 21s, obviously you have like a huge week this week. Like you've Norway at home and Italy away, and final two games of the group, and this decides their destiny. Like obviously after the real disappointment of the Latvia game last month, I was at it. Like it was quite a strange game, to be honest. Obviously before the senior Greece game, not a lot of crowd at it. The kind of 21s tend to feed off the crowd, like especially playing in Turner's Cross. It's always big crowds at their games, and I think they kind of struggle with that. But it's still in their hands, like as Jim Crawford has been saying. If they beat Norway on Friday in Cork, they will secure playoff, and then they'll go to Italy with a free hit of trying to get top spot. But like the Norway game is the big one at home in Cork. Obviously lost 3-2 away, but if they can go and win that, they will get a playoff, which will be huge. And kind of the squad there, Mason Mealy probably the main kind of talking point, gets his first 21s call up, just turned 18. Like he's a huge talent, like, and with Sinclair Armstrong as well, missed the Norway game. You'd imagine Mark O'Mahony will start, just considering he's 2 goals in his last 2 games for Portsmouth. So he probably will start, considering the level he's playing at. But with Armstrong missing that first game against Norway, you wouldn't be surprised to see maybe Mason Mealy featuring. But obviously Johnny Kenny there in that position as well. I think the only other omissions maybe were Alex Murphy, Ollie O'Neill, who would have started last month, and I think a couple other players due to injury, Boston Lowell and Tony Springett. So Franco Uma there as well, I think he was in the stands for the Latvia game. He could see some game time, which would be really cool to say, because he's been a huge prospect. Obviously been on the Crystal Palace bench a lot this season. So yeah, listen, loads of positivity with these underage sides. Hopefully that can kind of filter through to the senior team this week, and we can get back on track.
We've seen the moment pass where it might have happened. Let's hope not. Houlihan. And fighting is there! Brings us all to our feet. Well deserved.
And moving swiftly on and onto our final segment of the show, and it is the lowdown. And that's basically where we just run through all the Irish involvements of note from the weekend. So, looking first and foremost at the Premier League, Dara O'Shea started, and Jack Taylor, Chio Ogbene and Sammy Smodics all came on late in Ipswich's 4-1 loss to West Ham. Ryan Manning started on the left side of a back three as Southampton lost 3-1 to Arsenal. No involvement for Will Smallbone, who is currently injured. Plenty of unused subs, as Jake O'Brien, Matt Doherty, Evan Ferguson and Mark Travers were unfortunately unused subs for Everton, Wolves, Brighton and Bournemouth respectively, so maybe not the ideal weekend for them. Troy Parrott started and played 70 minutes as Eze Alkmaar lost 1-0 to Fortuna Sittard. That was on Sunday evening. Adam Ida and Liam Scales both started as Celtic came from behind to beat Ross County 2-1 away from home. And also in the Scottish League, Jamie McGrath picked up an assist as Aberdeen continued their fantastic run of form to start the season in their 3-2 victory over Hearts. Lower down, maybe on the priority list, Luke McNally was on the score sheet for Bristol City as they drew 1-1 with Cardiff City. Marco Mahoney made it 2-2 for Portsmouth as they drew 1-1 with Oxford United. Marcus Harness started and scored for Derby County in their 2-0 victory over QPR, while Aaron Cashin also impressed again and must surely be on Heimer's radar at this stage. And finally, Michael Obafemi capped off a great week for Irish strikers in the Championship as he started and opened the scoring for Plymouth in what turned out to be a last gasp 2-1 victory over Blackburn Rovers. So that's it from my end in terms of key involvement. I don't know if I've missed anything, lads, or if there's anything you want to highlight. But if not, then final thoughts. I want to know, or I know, in fact, that we've already looked at the defence, but overall, what sort of lineup are you hoping to see against Finland? And maybe how do you expect us to approach the game overall?
Right, so where are we now? 4 podcasts in, and I think the only thing we've mentioned over and over again is formation. So it would be nice to reiterate, I think we all would like a formation change, as pretty much almost everyone in the Aviva the last couple of games is talking about. Personally, I think the squad would be nicely set up for a 4-2-3-1. I'm going to assume that Kelleher is going to be all right for Thursday, so obviously he'd be issuing. And then we were talking about Collins. I think I'd go with Amabamidele, just because even though he hasn't played, as I mentioned earlier on, I do like that partnership. Right back, I think he'll go with Ebisele, but I'm not totally convinced of Ebisele as a back four. You could definitely go with O'Shea there if you need to. And then Robbie Brady probably at left back. If midfield, I quite like the sound of a midfield of Cullen and Knight, especially with the form that Knight is on. And ahead of him, I'd go attack with Smodjic in the 10. Probably on the left, Mikey Johnson, right wing, Ogbene, and up front, Adam Ida is a theme I think I would like to see.
Yeah, I'd probably go with something similar, to be honest. I wouldn't mind to see him playing 4-4-2, but I feel like if we play 4-4-2, it'll just turn into Crossy Ball Simulator, and I've been sick of seeing that at the Aviva over the last couple of games. So I think a 4-2-3-1, as Dylan said, probably does suit the team we have. Obviously, Keller in goals if he's not sick. Fullback wise, again, this is difficult situation. We don't have a lot of options. I would like to see Ebisele get a start. He is still quite raw, but I know he's obviously got his first goal for Watford, got his move back to England and playing the Championship. So I think he does deserve, it is the Nations League. We're not playing the crucial qualifier. I know it's a big game considering Heimer hasn't kind of had a win or performance yet, but these are the games we want to try these players out in, and I think I would like to see Festi get a start at right back. Centre backs then, I'd like to see Collins and O'Shea, just 2 centre backs starting consistently at the highest level. Scales then, I think left back would probably balance out that back line a bit more, with kind of Festi bombing forward and then kind of Scales tucking in, maybe even forming kind of a back three at times. Midfield then, I think Cullen and Knight, I think like I said in the last podcast, I think Jason Knight, he has to be one of the first names on the team sheet for Ireland in my opinion. I think it was kind of scandalous how Malumbi was seen as a better midfield player than him to be in that midfield against England. I think Jason Knight's just a far superior player. And then kind of the front four, I think Ogbene obviously on the right wing, probably our only genuine option there. Mikey Johnson off the left, just because I think Smodic's, just seeing him on the left has just been torturous really. He's not a winger. It'd be nice to have someone more natural in that position. And then in the cam behind I'd probably like to see Ida up front. I'd probably go with Azaz. I think Finn Azaz should have been in the last squad. He's obviously in this squad, which is good, but been a really consistent form in the Championship over the last couple of years. Classic number 10, someone who can create things for us, has a decent long shot in him as well. He's just a really nice player to watch, and I think just having him there will just give us that bit of creativity that we've lacked over the last couple of games. That's my team. I probably wouldn't mind seeing Parrott over Ida, either or, to be honest. Maybe because we're kind of away from home, there probably maybe a bit more space in the counter. Ida's probably quicker. He'll probably suit the game better, but I wouldn't mind if Parrott started either, to be honest.
I have a feeling that they're going to go Ida for one of the games and Parrott for the other, especially with Parrott's form since the international. They're probably just swapped in and out, because I don't know if Heimer knows his attacking options properly. I think, as we kind of said the last time, it's like Ogbene, and then everyone else kind of is fighting for his place. If Ogbene can do the offside goal he scored last time and actually be onside this time, that would be class. Much appreciated.
Yeah, I don't think Heimer knows his midfield or defensive options yet either, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, look, it certainly seems as if we are kind of shooting into the dark a little bit with all these squad suggestions. So I think maybe that's a good place to leave it, because next time out, we'll hopefully be joining you with 6 points in the bag and finally a bit of clarity about what sort of formation we'll be playing going forward. But for now, if you haven't, make sure to subscribe to the Ireland Radar podcast wherever you do listen to us, and make sure to reach out to us on social media with your thoughts, as our DMs are always open. Finally, we're going to play you out with a short clip of music from an Irish artist, and this week's artist is New Dad and their single Under My Skin. Thank you once again for listening, and we will catch you very soon.